Hey everyone, happy Monday. What's going on? Hope you guys are having a great beginning to your week. My name is Colin Egglesfield and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Colin. So whether it's a cup of joe or an adult beverage, or as like my niece likes to call it, crack a cold one with Colin, whatever it is, I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that you can join me on this amazing Monday evening. And tonight, I've got a special guest for you. Someone who I've had the privilege of working with for 5 amazing years in Hollywood. And she's going to be sharing with us all of her insight and experience working in the business and being a mom and all that fun stuff. But first, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Picticular. Picticular is the #1 movie curating app. So if you are sitting down to watch Netflix or HBO or whatever it is, if you're looking for some good movie recommendations, each week my guests will share with you on Picticular their movie recommendations as the Picticular Pick 6. So if you have not downloaded Picticular yet, all you got to do is go to the App Store or the Google Android store and download Picticular. And after the show tonight, you'll be able to check out my guests' movie recommendations. And, this show is all about just coming together, having a conversation, much like you would have in a coffee shop. So that's why it's called Coffee with Colin. And as someone who has, I think we're all facing a lot of uncertainty in our lives right now, a lot of just like upheaval. And as someone who has survived cancer twice, and as an actor, I've constantly going on auditions and facing uncertainty in life. So that's the reason why I wrote my book, Agile Artist, last year. If you haven't picked it up yet, I highly recommend picking up a copy, because it's all about how do we create certainty in the face of craziness, in the face of a pandemic, in the face of getting out of a relationship, in the face of starting a new job. So anything that I can share with you that I've learned along my journey, again, going through health experiences such as cancer and working in the crazy world of Hollywood, anything that I can share with you and my guests can share with you to create a more empowering perspective for you in your life, that's what this is all about. So I am so excited to be introducing my next guest. And again, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people I've worked with in the business, but she is one of the most beautiful people, not only on the outside, but on the inside. She's a heart of gold, super generous, and just brilliant. So I can't wait to have her on here and share with you her insight and knowledge about how she's created her success, how she's created work-life balance in her life. And, we're going to find out what it was like working on some of the shows that she worked on. So you may have seen her on Dawson's Creek, CSI, NCIS, Mission Impossible 3 with my boy Tommy Cruise. She was also on Friends, Shameless, and of course, Rizzoli Isles, one of my favorite characters that I've gotten to play, Tommy Rizzoli. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Dr. Maura Isles from Rizzoli Isles, Miss Sasha Alexander. Put your hands together, everyone. Yeah, there she is. Woo!
Hi,
How
Colin.
you doing? Coming to you from your home in Hollywood, right?
Yes, I'm in LA.
Yes.
I'm in LA. I'm so happy to see your face.
It is so great to see you. It's been way too long.
I know.
Yes.
It really, really has. But I'm so happy to see you. But
yeah, well, I appreciate you being here, and it's good to see that you're surviving this pandemic.
I think we're all doing the best we can. That's my motto these days. Just, whatever comes up, we are all doing the best that we can on this carousel, this COVID carousel, we like to call it. I don't know. It's been a wild year. So, but listen, I have to tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing, your book, your messaging, you're getting out there and spreading like that positivity and love that you've always had, even back on Rizzoli days when you show up on set, always smiling.
Yep.
Always ready to tackle the day. You were just amazing. And so I just love that you're giving that to other people now. I'm really, really happy to see you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And, you know, they say, you know, it doesn't feel like work when you do what you love to do.
Yeah.
And that's why it was easy to show up on set. And I mean, working with you and Angie was like, I mean, a dream come true. So how could I not be smiling when I would show up, even at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Even 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So yeah, man, you've had such an amazing career, and it's still going on. I can't wait to dive in and talk about, you know, what it is that you're up to right now. But it's great to see you, and it's been a while. So, you know, with all of this kind of craziness that's been going on, you've been doing all right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think it's so funny because I feel like so many things have happened in these past months that have almost been like a year worth of time, and we're only halfway through it, or a little more than halfway through it. But, you know, I think that my biggest focus has really been my family and my children. You know, when they couldn't go to school and they were at home, I became a chef. I was, you know, I'm an amazing housekeeper. I learned how to like get my kids doing things that they've never done before, you know, just sort of splitting duties and house chores. Like I kind of jumped in to just really try to take this time as an opportunity to reflect on all of our lives and what's really important, and kind of ground myself every day and learn to really kind of manage the ups and downs and the emotional ups and downs of some days. I really, it was Groundhog Day constantly. I felt really discombobulated about what do I do today? You mean I'm just making lunch and breakfast and lunch and dinner again? And I'm doing this again. Like, what do I do? It was pretty wild. And then I think the summer came around to like, what do we do with our summer? My husband Eduardo was traveling in Italy, and he had to finish a movie that he did, and so I was with the kiddos, and we just found stuff to do around here and make the best of it. And you know, I think that it's been a real practice in I think meditation every day, as you say in your book, like waking up and just kind of throwing a bunch of positive energy at your day and figuring out what you can do and who you can talk to or what you can listen to, or to just kind of help remind you or educate yourself on what we can do to just stay as positive and as productive as possible. Yeah. And, you know, as a mom, I kept thinking to myself, I just got to make things normal for my kids. I just have to make it normal. And if they feel that I'm okay, they're going to be okay. So what do I do to do that? Yeah, they definitely kids take cues from parents and everyone else. So I definitely, not having kids, but having 7 nieces and nephews, you know, I think it's definitely important to create that normalcy. How has homeschooling been for you? I know it's been the summer, but were you doing the tail end of homeschooling in the springtime? And how are you looking forward to going back to school? Are your kids going to school, or are you doing the homeschooling now, or what's going on? Yes. Well, my son was in 3rd grade. He's now going into 4th. And I think the homeschooling was really challenging for him the most, because I think 3rd graders just aren't used to being on a computer all day, and everyone's talking over each other, and the poor teacher's trying to figure out how to get everyone simmered down. I mean, it was kind of chaos initially. I think for my son, he's a real social kid. He wants to just be playing soccer, and he wants to hang out with his friends. And it was really hard to be isolated initially. So that was tough. My daughter was in 8th grade, and she was different. She is a bit more of, I think she was just more mature and able to manage doing it on her own. Yeah. I think the hard part for all parents is really just is controlling the computer time and electronic time for all of our kids. There's not a parent I haven't spoken to that is like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't get everything I need to get done, whether it's your own work or house duties or whatever it is, and like sit there entertaining your children all day. Like, we all need to, you know, so I think everything's kind of gotten down to the basics of how can we work together to to really figure out a way to manage this. But electronics has been the tough thing. And I actually just heard some good news that they're going to start doing some real testing in LAUSD, so community testing and tracking, so that they can start to, I think, really identify the communities and how we're doing, particularly in Los Angeles, in hopes that we can go back to school, very soon. So I hope so. I hope so for the kids, also just their mindset and mentality. They miss their friends.
Yeah, definitely. How have you dealt with?
I'm super cool, Colin, but I am not as cool as Leonardo's like 9-year-old buddies.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're doing some awesome TikTok videos, which I'm still trying to figure out.
By the way, I'm so not good at it, and I used to be a dancer, and I still can't figure it out. But the funniest thing happened, my daughter, she's always moving, right? She's got her TikTok and she's tweaking all the time.
Yeah.
And we're like, could you please stop at the dinner table? Like, you look like things are like not right. You're just constantly moving. And so anyway, it's been pretty funny to kind of try to, pull it away from her for the summer to get her to stop moving all the time. They're so
Yeah. It's funny you bring up dancing, because I did a little research on you, and this is something that I discovered that I didn't know about you. So you were actually a fly girl out in Living Color, right? Back in the day.
This is Vogue. This is the Cabbage Patch.
So were you on there when Jennifer Lopez was on there?
No. So I have danced with Jennifer before, but I was only 16 years old. And I made this kind of, when the show did the pilot, they didn't know that the Fly Girls were going to be such a thing. So I just did the first however many episodes. And then the show was kind of in a holding pattern for a while. And then when they decided to take it to series and keep the Fly Girls, my parents were like, you're not leaving school to go be a Fly Girl. Okay. I was dancing at the time and so it was really fun. I mean, and I loved that show. That show was one of the greatest sketch shows ever. I grew up on it. I love it. So
and that's where Jim Carrey got his start. Right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was there in the rehearsal the first time that he did Fire Marshal Bill.
No way.
And he light himself on fire and the whole thing. And so I was a huge fan of his. And then we worked together a couple of other times, but when we were on Yes Man, I was
great movie.
Jim, I was there. He's like, what? And so he I got him to do it a little bit in private.
That's awesome.
It was fun.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is awesome is that, now that you're doing amazing work, having done these movies, worked with Tom Cruise, and now you're directing and producing, I think one of the key things to remember is that we all have started somewhere. And I think some people get stuck starting something because they're afraid of looking stupid, or they think they need to be doing top level stuff when they first start. And if you go look back at any actor's career, you can see that the first things that, I played a male escort on Law and Order. I mean, that was my first job. And then my next one was jumping into bed with Jenny Garth with a glass of wine. And the whole night before, I was rehearsing. And my one line was, so who's Chris McConnell? And I'm sitting there in the mirror the night before rehearsing. And then I get to set the next day, and I'm trying to milk every moment of this. And I'm I get in there, I've got my glass of wine, and I look around, I give her the glass, and I sit down, and I'm in my underwear, and I kind of look around and say, so who's Chris McConnell? And the director was like, cut! All right, dude, just get in the bed, get a glass of wine.
No Colin, no. Yeah.
I mean, I was like, wait a minute, this is my moment. And he was like, dude, just give her the wine, say the words, and let's move on. And when I got hired on All My Children, people were like, dude, what are you doing a soap opera for? And it's why not? And I think some people get so afraid of starting out just someplace and learning from the experience. And just to hear that, you started out as a fly girl. What were some of your earlier projects that you were just excited to be on and that you learned the most from?
Well, when I kind of started dabbling in acting, I was dancing as a teenager. And so my dance teacher started like choreographing a lot of big commercials and videos. And so he started using me and a few of the other dancers in the projects he was doing. So that was kind of my first introduction. And then I fell in a drama class in 7th grade, and I had this amazing drama teacher, Zena David. I still remember her because I wasn't going to take the class, and she said, "Oh, give it a shot, give it a shot." And then we started preparing for this Shakespeare festival, and it was my first kind of introduction into theater. And I ended up doing really well at this festival, and then I continued to do those every year through high school, and I got a scholarship at the Royal Shakespeare Academy in London. Wow. And I started to kind of really dive into theater. And so my first experiences were really stage. And I thought I knew that that's not what acting was, because I knew so many people that were living in LA. I had friends that were doing television shows and things like this. But yeah. I don't know, Colin, I didn't really see myself. I loved acting, but I didn't know that there was a place for me in it. Like you, I didn't come from a family of actors. And so they were very practical. They were immigrants. They came here and they're like, "You're going to be a lawyer or a doctor, and this is what you're going to do." And I think I would have made a great lawyer, but I really didn't want to be a lawyer. And so I was like, but my daughter does, actually. Funny enough, my daughter's really very much like wanting to be a lawyer. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I know. My kids are like, "Acting, please. We are not going into business. Like, I'm going to be a lawyer."
Yeah. So were your parents supportive of your wanting to be an actress?
I don't think they knew how to be. It's not that they didn't want to support me. They just did not understand that you could actually make a living doing it. They had zero understanding of the business. And so I decided to go to film school at USC. And after film school, I think they started to see that there was like other jobs you can do. You could go work at a company. You could, and I did. I interned at companies.
Unfreeze and boom. I'm going to use my magic powers to bring her back, ladies and gentlemen. See, this is the beauty of live broadcasting. Anything happens. And in life, anything can happen. And what do you do with it? What I learned in my acting classes is you just roll with it. If you have the opportunity to take an improv class, I highly recommend it, because as we know, life doesn't always work out the way we want it to, but the more you embrace the unknown, the more exciting life can be. And she's back.
Yeah. Oh,
there she is.
So what were we saying? So I don't think that my parents just didn't know you can make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know. And so when I graduated film school, I got like a practical job being an assistant to a producer, and I realized it's not what I wanted. So I quit and I enrolled in an acting class, and I waitressed. And that's what I did. And I waitressed, and I went on auditions in the day, and I waitressed at night, and I just kind of tried to get by until I got a job. And that's how it went. So, I think that, listen, it's one of those professions, we both know that you are hit with so much, rejection, and it's really not something that, you can be talented, you can be the most beautiful person in the world, doesn't mean anything. There are so many factors that go into us being able to be on a set and play characters and get to do that. And I really couldn't tell you. Like, I mean, I couldn't even tell you. Like, people ask me sometimes, "Oh, can you give me advice on this or that?" And I'm always like, I don't know. I think you got to dig into yourself, your authenticity, your voice, your story, and what makes you unique when you walk into a room. And that's it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's still hard.
It is.
Now it's really hard. Like, it's tough. It's a tough.
And that's why you got to absolutely love what you do. Some of the piece of advice that I got from, acting teachers when I first started out was my first acting teacher in New York City was 24 years old. She said to all of us, brand new, we're just sitting there in the class. She said, "It's going to take you 10 years to become a working actor. It's going to take you 20 years to become a good working actor. And if any of you are not ready to put in that type of commitment and that type of work, there's the door.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to stay, let's get to it. Colin, Lisa, get up. And I think so many people, especially now in the immediate culture that we have of turn on Netflix, I want to watch it now, and I watch the whole season now, and I want food now, and I want to have a date with Tinder now. It's hard for us sometimes, I think, to just sit back and realize that the best things in life take time. Relationship, work. And I think it's important to remind ourselves to just give us that space, give ourselves that kindness and that space to learn. One of my other acting teachers said, dare to suck. Leslie Kahn. Have you ever heard of Leslie?
I have heard of Leslie. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She would have that written on pens and pads of paper, and it would be like, I dare you to suck. And I was like, oh, I can suck. That's easy. And
the first television job I ever, I had done a movie, but then the first TV job I did, it was my first lead on a series. And I still remember the director, Steve Miner, great guy. And he was a big television director. And my first scene, he came up to me and he just said, don't suck. And he walked away. And it was like the first scene. And I was like, thank you so much. He said, don't suck. And I thought, you know what? But the truth is, I think that once you understand the storytelling and what it is that we're doing, I think that you have to suck. I think you have to put it all out there. And what I mean by that is not caring if you do suck, because the only way you're going to get through to do something really truthful or real or connect with somebody is by putting it all out. And sometimes that means, it doesn't work. And then you back up and you kind of go, I'll do it this way, or I'll do it that way. I think that that's part of the lesson. And I think that takes time. When you see young actors and just want everything and think it's just that, you're kind of like, oh, you're so sweet, but you know nothing. You know nothing. Wait to see you in 10 years and see if you're still doing it, or if you come back and go, wow, I learned so much.
If you could give your younger self any insight or piece of advice, what would it have been when you first started out acting?
Is that me?
Yeah. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would have tried to be anything but yourself. And so the work that you have to do is to get to know you. I feel like when we're in our 20s and when we're young, all we're doing is trying to sort of fit into something that we think is something. And the truth is, all that stuff is in our head. None of it is real. And none of it is the thing that makes you connect with anybody else. And so I think that I would have said, don't waste your time trying to fit into that box or anything else. Just be you. Be you. Yeah. Bring whatever that is. And you walk into an audition room and you do your best in those 3 minutes that you have, and then you walk out and you brush it off and go back to your life. You can't control, what you can't control. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, we can't control the things we can control. So you're never going to control whether you get that job or not. It's only going to be the producers, the directors, or whatever vision they have. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with just your look, or you're not the type, or you're not whatever. But I feel like I would have probably said to myself, really just take advantage of the moments that you have and give your best, and be, just work on you and let yourself, put yourself out there as much as possible. I was shy, Colin, you know me well, but you've known me as an adult woman, but I am shy. I'm actually not, I'm not comfortable sort of giving every part of me. I'm a little, I don't know, maybe it's cultural. My mom's Eastern European, and she would always just be like, be humble, step back, don't lean into yourself, be invisible, not invisible, but kind of like that.
Right.
I think my work has been to really not do that. I think as an
Right.
actor, you have to lean into the uncomfortable and lean into showing yourself and fighting for yourself a little bit more than maybe you're comfortable with. And that took me time to figure that out. I love the work of acting, but I don't really love what we need to do to get the job and to get there and do all that. It's not the most comfortable thing, maybe for anyone, really.
Yeah, no, that's one of the biggest lessons I had to learn as well. And I don't know if you can see the comments down here, but Sophie just said, just listening to this conversation has made her feel better about herself. Yes, there it is. I love this talk. It's making me feel better about myself and inspiring me, honestly. And that's what this is all about. And that's exactly what I had to learn, just to advocate more for myself. Because as an actor, you really have to walk into the room, and it's not an arrogance. It's more so just being okay with your imperfections. And I've been on the other side of the camera or the audition table where I've helped produce a couple of projects. And just to see actors come in, I started to recognize, you know what? It's the ones who are just embracing their uniqueness. I'm like, yeah, let's cast that person, because if you try to fit in and you're like everyone else, then you're not unique. And I started to recognize the more I just started to walk into these rooms, embracing my quirks and my little things, that's when I started to work, because it felt like I wasn't trying to be the next Tom Cruise. I was trying to be the first Colin Egglesfield, you know?
Right, right. Listen, and I don't think that we can be the next anything. I think that's like the PR BS that they tell us to sort of put us in a box. But the truth is, you are you. You are not, Tom Cruise. You are not whatever. You are yourself. You have your own story. And I feel like if they're going to put us in a box anyway. So if we volunteer to get in that box with that, then we totally screwed ourselves over, and we will eventually be like, get me out of this thing. I want out. I just want to be me. And I feel like we all have our own time for that. I had an acting teacher when I was 16 who, at the time, I took this really personally, and I went home crying. But they told me that, I kind of like, I had a maturity that was beyond my age. This was 16. And that, maybe I'd start working in my late 20s. And I was like, they don't know anything and blah, blah, blah. But she was right. Like, I think that what I had to give wasn't matching up with sort of where I was in my physical body at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes you have actors like, an example is my dear friend Joshua Jackson. Like, we were on Dawson's Creek together, which you mentioned, and Josh was always a wonderful actor. But Josh, like, watching him now in his 40s, like, really come into his own. And I remember when he was 20, I was like, you are going to like be on fire when you hit your late 30s and 40s. He was just the kind of young man that had that face that you wanted to see, like, come to fruition later in maturity. And I feel like some people are like that. Some people hit their stride in their 20s, and then all of a sudden they're having to kind of configure who they are. And that's why I say we can only be truthful to where we are and who we are and what our story is and what we want to be saying, because everything else is a little bit, it's just definitely uncontrollable,
Yeah. Well, I did a little poll before we got on here from my Facebook Live. So I do some Facebook Lives beforehand just to see what people would like to ask. And I've got some questions from you from some of our audience members. And the first question comes from Ali Court from Australia. Her question is, what has been your greatest achievements personally and professionally?
Personally, it's definitely that I celebrated, 13 years with my husband this week, 15 years together, but 13 years married. And I have two really wonderful children. And I'm close to my mother, who is alive. My father isn't. I have great, dear, authentic family and friends. And that's my personal achievement, as I think really having a family that I didn't have growing up. My parents divorced when I was young, and I didn't know what my vision of family was. So when I met my husband, I I wasn't one of those girls that was like, I'm going to have 2 kids. I'm going to have a, white picket fence. I'm going to have da-da-da-da. Like, I wasn't like that at all. As a matter of fact, I told my mother that I think I was like in my late teens, and I was like, why would I ever get married? I'm just going to have lovers all over the world. And my mom was like, oh my God, like crossing herself. Like, what did I do? What did I do to this child? So I think that I was kind of influenced by, films that I had watched and sort of my imagination of thinking that, like, why would I be tied down? And why would I just had this idea of it as something that was not what I'm experiencing now. So my greatest achievement is definitely having that and having it surprise me. Because I don't feel like I've had to give up any part of myself for it.
Awesome.
I do think that anybody who is married and has children, I think we can all relate that, you sacrifice a lot for your children and for your husbands and your families, and you definitely give things up for other things. But in general, I feel like it's given me a lot. So.
And how about professionally?
Professionally, I reached one of my bucket list goals this year, which was to work with Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, yes. How was that?
Yeah. So, I'm a huge Larry David fan.
I am too.
Like obsessed with him. It was a dream thing. And so I was really lucky because they don't ever have like a lot of roles in the season. Like they don't have that many characters.
Yeah.
So I was so excited that I was sweating before I got there. I started sweating at like 24 hours before, and then I didn't stop. It was amazing. I just had it was incredible because it was really challenging because you're ad-libbing everything. And so you kind of know the scene, but you don't know what you're going to do.
Right. It's not like normal scripts. It's all written out. You memorize your lines, you show up, you do your scene.
Right.
This is
not.
So how does it, like in the script, what does it say? Larry and Sasha show up and talk about.
Yes. It says your character is having a dinner party and she only has 7 chairs. And so she gave Larry like a plastic chair to sit in, and here's what it is. And so you're like, what? Okay. And then you've got Larry, who you're already sort of like, it's Larry. Oh my goodness. Am I going to be? But the truth is they say to you, like, just be and be in the moment and just kind of play your character and don't try to be funny. And anyway, it was really, that to me was like, okay, check. I did this. This is awesome. And I'm good. I'm really good now. So that was really fun.
That is awesome. Yeah. So this question comes from Kelly Aris. What was the hardest part about leaving NCIS?
NCIS?
Yes.
Ooh, gosh.
And how did you feel about Cassie Thompson? How did you feel about the way that you were killed off of NCIS?
Well, I was fine with the way I was killed off. I mean, you can't control.
How were you killed off?
Well, there was a sniper, and he like in the head, and I died. And so I think they had to kill Kate in a very sort of violent final way because I wasn't coming back. And so they had to do it that way. I mean, listen, it's a tough subject to really dive into because there were a lot of things involved in my decision to leave the show. And so, and I'd rather not get into that, but they were real reasons. They were reasons that were really real to me. And I never for 1 minute doubted the extreme success of that series. And I love the fans, and I love how committed they are. And I love that they still care after, 15 years.
Yeah, obviously. Yes.
So that is the power of television and playing great characters. And I love Kate Todd, and she was amazing. And that's all I can say.
And then after that experience, was that then what led into Rizzoli Isles?
Yeah, I mean, after that, I started my family, and then my daughter was 2, and then I got Rizzoli Isles. Yeah.
And how did that come about? The whole Rizzoli Isles.
It was an audition. It was the end of the year. and they sent me this pilot and I loved it and I loved the character. I thought Maura was super cool. She pulled up in a Mercedes. I mean, literally the way you read the character for the first time, you're like, who doesn't want to play this? You know, she was like, she's pulled up in a convertible on a crime scene with these like 4-inch heels and, you know, kind of pushed everybody aside and went in, and she was really scientific and kind of nerdy, but interesting. And it was just like kind of a lot of things, the character. And I went and auditioned, I remember, with Janet Tamaro,
yes,
the creator of the show, and the director of the pilot, Mike Robin, who's brilliant. And I remember in the audition, yes, so awesome. He gave me a note about the character. I can't remember if it was him or Janet or maybe both, but they gave me a note which was to do the scene where I'm literally staring at this kind of like I don't remember what I was looking at, some kind of a tube or something, and reading something. And they said, don't take your eyes off of it. Like, you're only focused on this thing. And then you get distracted by the fact that Jane has this kind of broken, like what you see as a broken nose, that she doesn't realize that there's something, you know. And so by doing that, it was the greatest direction, because it really clicked me into this kind of razor sharp focus that Maura has. And it was a detail that I carried through this character, with this character, for the entirety of the show, which was that she can sit there and be like so sharp on like one thing, but then turn around and be like, oh, what are you doing for dinner tonight? And you're like, well, you were just doing that. And so you're, you know, because you've experienced it. And it really helped me get into the shoes of this character. And so, yeah, and then I got it. We went and I read with Angie, and we had a great chemistry read, and it was awesome. We were off and running. It was cool.
Yeah, you guys definitely had great chemistry. And what I was so impressed with you, and I always would feel bad, is that you had the longest medical term words and these paragraphs of, we've got to remove the sternoclavicular notch from the hydromyoclastoid muscle. And it was just like, oh my God. Wow. How are you doing this?
3 hours, 2 to 3 hours every night. And sometimes people were like, oh, you know, you're not having as much fun as Angie. She's messing around on set.
I know. Well, see
my dialogue? This is so unfair of all of you. Like, and by the way, if we went into a scene and I didn't nail like that page of dialogue within the first couple of takes, you would feel the director and the producers and everyone looking at their watches and being like, oh, you know, we're not going to get this. So like the only way I could memorize it was to really kind of put myself in there and get through it right away. Like, you know, I like to be shot right away. Like, let's do it. We would rehearse with the body and do everything we needed, and then kind of like really just jump in there. Because I also would start to, if I was tired or I didn't have caffeine or something, I would start to kind of get this lisp, and I don't know where it came from. I think it was like some weird nerves.
Everyone, get the coffee.
Oh, get the coffee. It was like that. But I would start to, I think maybe because I wasn't familiar with some of the medical terminology. It wasn't there were not vocabulary I knew in my life. So if you know about memorization, if you're memorizing things that you're familiar with, they're easier to remember. But if you're memorizing medical terms you've never heard before, I'd have to Google those terms. I'd have to learn, you know, the right pronunciation, and then I'd have to repeat it over and over. And by the way, if we did 5 scenes a day, it's not just one scene. We were shooting 5 of them. So it was weird. I had to we'd finish a scene and the dialogue would leave. Like if they ever asked me to go back and shoot, I'd be like, I can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
mad respect.
Yeah.
So Andrea Allen is asking, what was your favorite memory from Rizzoli Isles? And I'm going to have to say the scenes where you and I were tied up together. And I would say
no, that was Tommy. That was Jordan. Which one?
Remember we were tied up, and it was Patty. What was his name? His gang members were had tied us up. You and I were playing chess.
Oh and yeah, the house.
Yes, and then I would say my favorite memory was the moment where Tommy and Maura almost had a kiss, but then no, it didn't happen. So disappointed.
You know, that that was fun because I think everyone loved that because they loved that Maura was like, involved with Tommy of Rizzoli, like it was scandalous.
Yeah.
That something was going on. I think that was really fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. You know what? You were such a pleasure to work with, and you were so much fun on that show. And I loved, you always came in so fresh, and you had this great energy. And I feel like that was such a great character for you, Tommy, because he was also very different than Jordan's character, but yet you were so great with Angie and Jordan. Like all of you guys were such a great Rizzoli family. I really loved that.
Yeah.
You were perfectly cast and it was great. Great.
I love that role because it was unlike any other character I'd ever been. Because I usually get typecast as like the straight guy who just shows up and is like, hey, I'm like the normal white guy that just falls in love with the girl. And here I am, this kind of wise guy from Boston, who ran over a priest, and then I get my dad's fiance pregnant. What are you talking about? I don't know. It's just me.
I thought you were perfect. And I also think that like the Rizzolis were all heart. Yeah. And you're all heart. So like when you came, I don't know, it was just always really fun to kind of play and to do all that. We had a good time.
Yes, definitely was a lot of fun. Let's see here. Aurora Lamiabla asks, how do you choose your roles?
I think every actor will tell you that it has to be something that they relate to and that they feel that they can bring something to the character. Sometimes there's roles that I don't think that I could do, but then once I begin working on it, I can find something in it that I can relate to or that feels like it's an in to that character or that world for me. But I think mostly, I kind of stay open. I think they choose you in a way. It's a little bit, they have to come to you and you have to be able to read it and kind of say, oh, I know what I can bring to this and what I can do. And then, you hope that everything aligns for you to get to play it.
Yeah. I've heard several actors.
I'm a horror person. Like I don't like a lot of gore. I've said no to a lot of films that are extremely violent. I won't do things that are like violence against women in any way. I won't do that. And I tend to lean towards characters of women that don't have to be, that are fighting for something. There has to be something to play. There has to be some intention. Like, what are they fighting for? What do they want? What's their conflict?
What would you say Moira Isles is, what she was fighting for and what her conflict was?
Well, I think that her and Jane both were always fighting fighting for justice, I think, and fighting to solve sort of what happened. They both had really big hearts. And so I think one through medicine and one through instinct and guts and everything else. I think for Maura, there was a moment in the first season, I think, there was a scene with Lee Thompson Young where he asked her, like, how can you do this? How do you open up these bodies? And she says something to the effect of, that every body has a story to tell. And it's not until you get inside that you can look at an autopsy and you can look at what really happened to figure out, what the crime was. And so that little piece of information that Janet Tamero wrote really helped me kind of, carve out, I think, a character that felt like I could relate to this woman, even though I'm not a medical examiner. I think the intention of wanting to get to the truth.
Yeah. And would you say that whenever you approach a role, that there's any sort of fear and anxiety that comes up for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm a real believer in like rehearsing and doing as much homework as possible. And then you hope that when you get there that you and the other actors and the director will help find a rhythm that feels right. But I came from the school of really doing your homework and really asking those questions before you get there. But I think every character has things that are challenging because even if it's just giving yourself a backstory that's not written in the script, you need to come up with what that is.
Yeah.
You need to enter a room knowing where you're going. You need to enter a room owning that space, whatever that is, or not owning that space. So for me, a lot of it is really rehearsing, really reading the script many, many, many times over and over again, and really asking questions to understand why I'm saying certain things or why I'm doing certain things. And if I don't have the answer in the script, then I will usually make it up.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of actors, and I believe this too. Whenever I read a role that scares me in some way or another, that's what I'm attracted to. Because if I jump into something where there's an unknown element, I always find that that's the most exciting part of a script or a role or a relationship. I feel like if there's something in life that induces something of that sense of, okay, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but it excites me enough that I'm curious to jump into it. Because I think a lot of the times people are afraid of getting into something where they don't necessarily know how it's going to turn out. And like you said, I think what's key for an actor or for anyone in life is you do the preparation, you make sure you do your homework, you come to set as your best self. So whatever that means and whatever it is you need to do to get ready for that role, and it's not just acting. It's what do you need to do to be your best self to show up in a relationship? What is it that you need to do to bring your best self to whatever it is that you do in life? Because if you show up on set not doing your homework and not being prepared, you are dead in the water. And we all know what bad acting is. It's just like someone looks like they're a deer in headlights and they're not listening and not connected to the other actor.
No, and it's also disrespectful to your fellow actors that have done their work. Like, I've worked with so many actors that just don't know their lines. They just didn't have time to work on them, and they think they can wing it because they're charismatic enough. But it's bullshit, because, you know, I've had actors that like tape things on things and they have to read it. Now, I get it. Sometimes it's happened on series where, you know, people are working just way too many hours and life got in the way and they couldn't get to it that day. I totally get it. But I've worked with people that are just lazy and they don't want to do the work and they think they can just get by. But I think it shows. And I think it's not the way I like to work. Sometimes we've gotten scripts really late, not just on Rizzoli Isles, but like many shows. NCIS was, I mean, we would get like one act at a time. So you had no choice but to not know your lines. And that was really hard because you would, you know, you'd really want to be there for the other actor, but you were too busy worrying about like what you're going to say and what your line is coming up. But I think at the end of the day, once you know that they have editing and that if the line doesn't come right, you can kind of repeat it and do it again and just keep doing it. But nobody likes to work that way. I think we all like to kind of get in the flow.
Yep. And one last question from Sharon Kalma. She asks, is there anything that you haven't done yet that you are looking forward to do in your career?
I would like to do, I mean, the first time I did a little period piece was Amazing Stories for Apple last year. That came out this year in March. I did a period piece and I thought that was great. And I kind of want to do more of that. I feel like I fit that look and I can do that. And that was really fun.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do more action, Colin. Like I'm a super like physical person. Like I love to shoot action. I know that it can get tedious, but there's something, I'd love to do something that was like, we've been watching Lost in Space. Have you seen this series on Netflix?
No, how was it?
It's so good. Like we've been staying up, like watching it. And I'm like, I love this. Like I love getting into, I mean, we did action on Rizzoli Isles, but I mean, more, I didn't do that much, but I loved this kind of figuring stuff out and being on the run. And, you know, I don't know. I like it. I think it's fun. I mean, for me, there's not really like I can't say one specific thing that I like. I think for me, it just depends what the story is and what story we're telling. You know, I love comedies and then I love great dramas. So I don't know.
All right. Well, talking about comedies and dramas, we're going to get into your favorite movies and characters. So we're going to jump now into our particular pick 6. These are Sasha's movie recommendations. So the first question for you, Miss Alexander, is what is your favorite movie of all time? And you have a toss-up here.
I do have a toss-up, right?
Yes.
I feel, well, first of all, it's hard because I don't know that I have like a favorite movie, or if it's a movie that has affected me. Like, I feel like my favorite movies across the board are films that I watched at a certain point in my life that just opened my mind and imagination and affected me in some way.
Yeah.
That moment in my life. So I would say one of them is Dr. Zhivago. It's a classic.
What that's about.
Well, I mean, it's very hard to get into what it's about, but it is definitely like one of the most classic films of all time, about this Russian doctor and how he falls in love with two women, but it's in Russia and it's in the cold. And it's like, it was to me like this. My mom watched it a lot, and I just remember it being like this classic story that was so scopy and huge.
Epic cinematography.
And everything was so beautiful about it. And I felt like, I don't know, I think it was something that my mom really always talked about and I loved. And then coincidentally, as life would have it, my father-in-law actually produced it, which
really,
yeah, Carlo Ponti produced it, which years later it was like amazing. So, I need to get a original Dr. Zhivago poster somewhere in my house, but that's a film. And then I don't know, what else did I put down there? Did I put Fargo?
You put
Blue Velvet.
So Adrian Brody is in this film.
Oh, The Piano.
Yes. Awesome movie. Again,
awesome.
Epic scale.
Yeah.
And
no, Adrian Brody is not in this. The piano is Holly Hunter. And
I'm thinking of The Pianist.
You're thinking of The Pianist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's right. Holly Hunter.
Am I dark? I feel like I'm getting dark. Is it getting dark in here?
No, we can still see your beautiful face. Yeah. You're good.
All right.
Yeah, that's a little better.
That's a little better. Hold on.
And who was it? Didn't what was her name? She won an Academy Award and she was like 8 years old.
Oh, Anna Paquin.
That's right. So that was The Piano, right?
Yeah, that's The Piano. And
so what was so great about? I haven't seen it, unfortunately. What did you love about the movie?
Well, first of all, you have to see it so that you understand how brilliant it is. But it's you know what? I've always been attracted to movies about complicated relationships. Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes those border on very unhealthy relationships. Not that I had that in my life, but for whatever reason, I think human beings are complicated, and they are. I think that all different people affect us in different ways. And I've always been attracted to this idea of how we affect each other. And sometimes bad, if you're involved with a person who has a lot of darkness, what does that bring out in you? And what is that? And so The Piano is a beautiful period piece about a woman who plays piano, but it's hard to tell you about. You kind of have to see it because I think everyone won Oscars. I think Holly Hunter won. They're all incredible in this movie, but it's a period piece about a relationship that's a taboo relationship. Like, they're not allowed to be together, and then they are, and it's an affair gone crazy, and she has issues. It's a lot.
Sounds perfect during a pandemic.
It's during a pandemic.
Yes. And then you also said one more. You had said, this is a really amazing movie. You said Moonlight.
Oh gosh, Moonlight.
Yes.
You know what? I saw Moonlight actually with my mother-in-law in my bed. I'll never forget. 2 years ago it came out? Did it win last year or this year? 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I hadn't seen a film that affected me that way in so long, that I actually felt was like truly a perfect movie. I think that it is a masterclass in directing actors. I think the fact that he had actors that we didn't know very well, that weren't just, riding on that star or whatever. And the fact that he had to connect all of them from youth to then teens to then an adult.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to do.
And younger, these are kids that were phenomenal.
That movie is was another level to me. That blew the roof off of everything. As far as a current movie that, in the last years. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh, this is a good one. What was your favorite movie growing up?
E.T.
Yes.
E.T.
One of my faves too.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. E.T.
Phone home.
I saw it when I was like 7 or 8. I can't remember. And I started crying, and I was like totally blown away. It affected me so deeply. I have, as a matter of fact, I should have brought it to show you, but I'll send you a picture. But I have my original E.T. doll that I got, which is just this little plastic E.T. doll. And I actually just found it in my keepsake box. And it's something I've kept in my whole life because I just enamored with this film.
Yeah, such a perfect movie. And it's amazing how something so ugly could be so lovable. And so
he's not ugly. Don't say E.T.'s ugly. I love E.T. On this, by the way, the scene when he and Elliot are in the at the very end when he's sick and Elliot's sick because of him, and he's just like, Elliot, the at him. When I showed my daughter Lucia this movie for the first time, I was like so excited, and she just turned to me and she was like, did the movie people paint him white? I said, what? Like in that moment, that it was like the biggest moment. She goes, did they paint him white? I said, kiddo, what are you, a cyborg? Like, you're not crying in this moment? What is this? Like, this is the biggest moment of E.T.'s life. And so, maybe it was, I don't know, but she really was more concerned about the fact that it was all white.
She's definitely going to become a lawyer for sure.
I know, right?
She's going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a random answer. And I mean, we are so on the same page here. I love this movie, and it's such a random movie. Your favorite comedy is?
The Jerk.
The Jerk. Steve Martin. Yeah, well, it's one of my favorite comedies. My dad loved this movie. He was the one that introduced me to it, and you guys have to check it out. It is ridiculous, but so funny. Steve Martin at his best.
At his best. I always tell people, like young actors or people that I'm working with, when we talk movies on set or whatever, and I'm like, well, have you seen The Jerk? And they're like, no. And I'm like, don't talk to me until you've seen The Jerk. Like, come back when you've seen The Jerk and we can talk about it. I'm a huge fan. I just, to this day, I mean, there are moments, I actually showed the film during the quarantine to my 9-year-old, and he was laughing so hard at some moments. And there are some moments that are inappropriate because there's some sexual content that's like a little out there, but it's not, I don't know that you can totally follow. I mean, you can, but you don't, I don't know. It's kind of okay. But he laughed so hard at some of the moments because they're so ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's a great lesson on how to not take yourself so seriously.
Oh yeah.
I think we can take ourselves so seriously, and we think we're so significant. But when you watch a movie like that, it just reminds you of how much fun you can have and how fun it can be to just let go, let loose, and be yourself. And to see an actor like that, or someone like a Jeff Daniels in Dumb and Dumber, who, I mean, Jeff Daniels is an incredibly accomplished dramatic actor. And for him to see him do something like Dumb and Dumber, I was like, frick yeah, man, this is yes. Yeah. You know what?
I think it's fun to do those kinds of movies. Like I did a film. I mean, I've done a lot of comedies. So I did a film like that. I was just really like that kind of like silly over the top comedy. And it's a blast. I mean, there's a sense of freedom that you have to just like let it all go and not care about how it's going to come out. That's really, really fun. That's why I like comedy. I mean, nothing makes me laugh more than people just being complete idiots and just putting it all out.
Yep. Agreed. What is the movie that you're embarrassed to say you love?
Ooh, I forgot what I wrote.
It was late 80s coming of age story, Molly Ringwald.
Is it Pretty in Pink?
Yes.
Yes, it's Pretty in Pink.
Great movie.
It is a great movie, but people don't remember it as like a great movie. But I just remember being 13 and my dad taking me to the movies. And when those lights came up, I was sobbing. I mean, the fact that he didn't want to be with her because she didn't come from like the wealthy neighborhood and that she was, I mean, if that's not a story that every teenage kid could relate to, and her making her own prom dress and Ducky.
Yes, John Cryer.
But John Hughes is a legend. I mean, he's so tapped into with Breakfast Club and everything else. Like,
Yep.
I don't know that, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't see my daughter watching those kinds of movies. I mean, she's starting to watch those, but I feel like she needs to catch up on all the John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Especially Breakfast Club. Another famous actor who got his start in Pretty in Pink. Not sure if it was his first role, but he played not the villain, but he was the
Spader?
Yes.
Yeah, James Spader was amazing.
What was his name in the movie again?
Oh, oh man, I'm gonna forget.
One of my viewers might type it in.
Anybody know? Anybody remember that? No. What is his name? He had a great name.
Yes. Can't remember it. We'll come back to it. Okay, who is your favorite male movie character or actor?
Oh, I probably said Dennis Hopper.
Yes, you did.
Well, first of all, we
Velvet.
share the same birthday, so I'm a little bit like.
Oh, of course.
We did share the same birthday. And also, when I was 15, I saw Blue Velvet, David Lynch's film, and I was blown away by the humor and menacing madness that he had in that movie, that character. And then I had the fortune of meeting him in real life, and he was so not like that I just thought this guy was just incredible. Like I loved the idea that he created this person that kind of lived in his own. He was crazy in that movie. Have you seen Blue Velvet?
Yeah, and it's David Lynch is definitely someone. If you're looking to, who's that?
This is Margot. Say
What's
hi,
up,
Margot. I call her Marge because she looks like Angela Lansbury. Look at her. There you go.
What's up, Marge?
She was without me for too long. She's very attached.
Yeah, I can tell. Beautiful dog. But if you're looking to be psychologically freaked out, watch a David Lynch movie. Absolutely. And then finally, who is your favorite female movie character or actress?
I don't know. Who did I say?
Maybe
Frances McDormand.
Yes, you did. Frances McDormand.
Who does not love? I mean, I saw that movie, I think maybe 5 times. I'm not kidding.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
She is just beyond. Again, the humor with just like the dramatic arc, her being pregnant. I mean, the scene with her and her high school buddy, that wonderful actor, the Asian man, and they're like in the booth and they have this scene and he's just so weird. I mean, the whole thing. Yeah. Me, that is like, I mean, I don't know. That's just brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah.
I just love how it's the Coen brothers, right?
Yeah.
How they just capture the weirdness and the authenticity of life. Yeah. And how they just they just tie all those moments in together where it's so unbelievable, but believable at the same time. They are so gifted at doing that.
So gifted.
Yeah.
So gifted. And they work with such brilliant actors, but I think they also give actors the space to kind of like, they cast so well and they give them the space to kind of just be, but yet the writing is so, so incredible.
Yep.
That movie is one of my favorites.
Makes actors look so good when there's good writing. So thank you, good writers, to all of you out there. And Cindy Woodward came up. She was the first one to write in who James Spader character was, and Bonnie McFadden Burke. Also, it's Steph.
Steph. Oh, I would not have guessed that.
That was his name. Yes. Okay. So thank you, ladies, for sharing the insight there. And as we wrap up here, Sasha, you get to ask the 8-ball.
Okay.
Any question you would like. So what would you like to ask the 8-ball tonight?
I don't know. Gosh, I don't know.
How about Are you going to win an Academy Award?
Oh, I'm not asking that question.
Oh, because you already know you are going to. It's
You
not.
know what? Yeah, you know what? I've never been like, I don't know. I don't know. No, that wouldn't be the question. What would be? Is the question about me?
It's anything you want. Anything you've been contemplating, anything that you've been maybe wanting to get some clarity on, because the universe
Get some clarity.
The universe,
The universe
is at
clarity
your
on.
hand.
No, it's all political. We're not talking politics. So how about, can we stay hopeful, positive, happy during this kind of unknown time? Is that unfair to ask the 8-ball?
No, I like that question. Very good answer. You may rely on it. So thank you for asking that question.
We'll take it.
The universe has just told us that we can rely on some clarity and just a sense of feeling like, you know what, we're all going to be okay when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And when we get, what's that?
No, I think we will. I just think we all have to. I think this is a time where we all have to. We have to work together as a community. And I know that sounds like, but I really think we do. And I think we need to be doing what you're doing, and I hope what I'm doing. And we need to stay together. We live in this country. We are constantly being forced, and this isn't politics, but it's just like about living in a capitalist society. Everything is about our own gain and how do you get here and how do you get there. And that's why even when you bring up Academy Award, that's like the furthest thing from my head. I just want to go back to work, I want to work again. I want to wake up and have to be able to make a plan and have a goal. And I feel like the only way that I know that I can get through this is by community and feeling like I'm not alone, and that we're all listening and we're all hearing and we're all sharing. And if anything, if we can come out of it just being connected deeper to ourselves, to our families, to the things that matter to us, then I think we're doing as well as we can, right?
Well, one thing I know for certain is that we are all going to be okay, knowing that you are continuing to be on our televisions and in our movies. And every day that I would show up on Rizzoli Isles, I just always felt such warmth, such a sense of community, not only from you, but from Angie. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and for sharing your insight, sharing who you are, your beautifulness, your positivity. And I can't wait to see you again in person, to give you a huge hug, because I love you, Sasha.
I know this. I love you so much, Colin. I'm so happy to see your face, and thank you for asking me to do this with you. And thank you for everything that you are putting out into the world and sharing your incredible story. That I feel so lucky to have you as a friend, and I always wish you the best in every way.
Well, until we see each other in person,
can't wait.
Yay!
Phone home.
Thanks, Sasha. I'll see you soon. Take care. All right, everyone. Wow, isn't she amazing? See, that's why I love my job. I love just meeting and working with amazing people like that. And it was awesome just to get just more of a perspective on who she is. And, this time that we're going through right now, it really has made me stop and reflect on what's important in my life. And as much as I, loved working with Sasha, rarely did we have this kind of time to have this kind of a conversation. So I encourage you in this time where we, are stuck at home and we're spending more time with our family members and, kids and spouse and all that stuff. I would encourage you to just take the time to spend more time with your family members. I know sometimes people can get on our nerves, especially moms, dads, kids, all that stuff. But if we just take the time to really just spend quality time with people and just share the moments and be able to just authentically say, you know what, this is what you mean to me. And instead of focusing on all the annoying things that people do to us, I think we don't necessarily hear enough about what we mean to people. And just even having this experience of talking with Sasha just reminds me of how much, how amazing she is. And people will surprise you when you really take the time to get to know them and just give them the space to share who they authentically are. And as we talked about today, it's all about being your authentic self. Sasha even mentioned it, walking into an audition, the times where you are able to be yourself, be authentic, those are the times when your life takes off. So I encourage you to do more of that. If you are looking for some encouragement, some insight in how to get more grounded with what it is that you are wanting to accomplish in your life, if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like you need a little kick in the ass to go after what it is that you truly want to in life, I've got my course called Inspire. It's a 6-week master class in goal setting and finding for you and creating for yourself your life script. It starts next week, so you can go to my website, colinegglesfield.com. If you're looking to jump into this thing, tells you everything that's in the course, and people from all over the world are in this course, and it is amazing because you will instantly become a part of a worldwide community that will help support you in what it is that you're dealing with. And you truly will be able to just be your authentic self in this amazing 6 weeks of fun, empowerment, inspiration, and motivation. So with that being said, thank you again to our sponsor, Picticular. And go to Picticular, download the app to see Sasha's movie recommendations. And thank you again for everyone for being here. Thank you to Remix, my PR company, for putting this all together. And I can't wait to see you next week. In the meantime, have an amazing week. Sending you lots of love, lots of positivity, lots of inspiration. And until then, take care and be well.